First things first, I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. That is Nick Wright.
And you know what today is?
Oh.
Monday.
Yes. Our 50th show.
Nick Wright, our resident counter. 50 shows 50th
in. Edition of First Things First.
And any thoughts?
I told you I had a few friends out there. I told you I'd make it 50 shows with Nick.
It feels good. 50 shows under our belt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you got 49 under your belt.
That's true.
Literally.
You know what?
49 in a few seconds.
That is an excellent statistical correction, CC. Today's already going to be a great day.
Oh, it feels good. Mondays are of the 50. Mondays are always the best. It's a wonderful Sunday of football. Let's start with said football. It turns out no Ezekiel Elliott is no good for the Dallas Cowboys. That is the Falcons dominated them 27-7. Cowboys left tackle Tyron Smith left the game with an injury, and apparently he took the rest of the offense with him. Falcons defensive end Adrian Claiborne sacked Dak Prescott 6 times. That's one shy of the NFL record. Dak did not sugarcoat things after the game.
We got our asses kicked, and we'll get better from it. And that's what happened in Denver. As you saw, we got better from it, and we'll get better. We'll get better from this one as well. It was a team deal tonight. I mean, it was a team loss. We're all going to take credit in it, and it sucked. But we'll get better from it and use it to motivate us.
Okay, so we should sort of break this down a little bit. At first, Tyron left in practice, not during the game.
Didn't,
Sean Lee left during the game. Still, regardless, it was a huge void left.
They were missing the key players in 3 different positions.
Yeah, and which we talked about the other day. Like, if those were the 3 players you were going to miss.
Right, we didn't know that they were going to be missing Tyron Smith and Sean Lee when we talked about how those were the two guys more important than Zeke for this team. They ended up being without all 3. But sorry, go ahead.
Speaking of Zeke, are the Cowboys in trouble without him in the lineup based on everything you saw yesterday?
I mean, I'm not surprised. I don't like to be the guy to say, I told you so, but Zeke is not a regular football player. He's not a regular running back. It's not like we draft kids out of the NFL every 2, 3, 4, 5 years that are like him. No, he's a very special player. And it's not just because his overall running the skills, but it's his ability to be physical with the football. He's a 3-down back. He's great in blitz pickup. The defense has to do so many things to try to take him away from the Dallas Cowboys that they don't do for other teams. Now, I believe in Dak. It seems like with this argument with Dallas, like, is it Dak or is it Zeke? Like, who's important? It's football. It's the ultimate team sport. It's hard to replace great players. And when you start to see when a great player misses, you see there's no next man up. The drop-off is tremendous, and it affects the football team. And I knew Zeke being out, it would affect Dallas, but it would affect Dak more than anyone else. Because when you don't have them, you don't realize how much you missed them. And that's what we saw yesterday with the Cowboys in Atlanta.
So all of that may be true, but even if Zeke were playing yesterday, the Cowboys, to me, would have lost that football game. Because the biggest loss was not Ezekiel Elliott, it was Tyron Smith. The Tyron Smith not being out there and replacing a guy who might be the best left tackle in football, certainly when he's healthy on the very short list, with a guy who appeared to not be an NFL-level player in Chaz Green. Now, maybe this was a one-off for him. I know he started the season at left guard. He got replaced by Jonathan Cooper. He's now their backup left tackle.
I don't think that's fair to Chaz Green because he is a quality NFL lineman. But, Nick, there's only a few people that God makes that can play left tackle.
Okay.
All right? And who he was replacing. We're talking about one of the great left tackles that we've seen in the NFL the last 10 years in Tyron Smith. When he pulls out of the he got hurt in practice, his groin. Now, he's been nursing a back. So they've had a lot of repetition with backups in there because he's missed so much time. But I don't think it's fair to Chaz moving him from guard to tackle. You're talking about a tremendous jump. And why didn't they put the tight end on the other side?
So that's what I want to talk about. Because, listen, I understand. Maybe I was a little harsh on Chaz.
Yes.
But the guy he was up against, Adrian Claiborne, is not some future Hall of Famer.
No.
Adrian Claiborne is a guy who went into the game last night, or yesterday afternoon, I guess depending on where you were in the country, with fewer than 25 career sacks. Adrian Claiborne went into the game yesterday where his career high for a season was 7.5 sacks.
Yes.
And now he is on a list with only Derek Thomas ahead of him for most sacks in a single game with 6. Like, Adrian Claiborne consistently beating Chaz Green to me, showed that Chaz wasn't ready to play that left tackle spot, showed that Jason Garrett needed to make an adjustment. This is what Ziggy Ansah did to Eric Flowers on steroids, and it showed that the Cowboys offense that we have given the offensive line a tremendous amount of credit for, that somehow maybe we haven't been giving the offensive line quite enough credit. Because the moment that left tackle was gone, everything they tried to do broke down. I know Zeke wasn't there, and I understand you can key off defensively differently when Zeke's not in the backfield. But to me, the biggest missing piece was not the running back, it was the left tackle.
Real quick, can you break down why the left tackle position is so hard to play, hard to find players to play it, and so important? Because we talk about it all the time, that left tackle position is just so crucial for any offensive line to work together.
Well, the left side of the offense, defenses traditionally have put on their right side their best rusher, Lawrence Taylor. All right? He played right outside linebacker. So you knew you had to have a very good athlete. Now, the guy has to be a good athlete. He also has to have very, very long arms. He's got to be able to block by himself most of the game. But also, he's got to be powerful enough that they can create a running game to the weak side, because most of America, the majority of America is right-handed. So are most football coaches, and so are most teams. So when they design plays, this is just how they do it. Most of the formations are right-handed formations. The hashes are in the middle of the field, so coaches can get away with that. Their brain thinks right, they line up right, and the most valuable offensive lineman is that left tackle, because if you can't sit in the pocket and protect the blind side of the quarterback without him having assurance that he's going to have time, it affects the quarterback in him staying with his reads, how long he holds on to the football. So that is the most important position, and that's also why when they divvy out the money from an offensive standpoint, the quarterback, the left tackle, the wide receivers, they get paid the most money.
So nothing against Chaz, you just can't slide that guy right into left tackle.
Well, I mean,
the skill that it takes to play left tackle, also, you don't have any help to your left or to your right, even though you have a left guard. When you play left guard, I have you as the tackle, Jenna. I also have the center. So I'm fighting in a phone booth. Now, when you get out onto the left tackle, it's almost like you're in the express lane on the freeway. And the type of athlete that you're going against is totally different.
Well, and the reality is the Dallas Cowboys yesterday were without, aside from Dak, their three best players. Sean Lee, we know how bad this defense is without him compared to with him. They've now played 3 games this year that he either missed entirely or last night was knocked out early on. They are 0-3 in those football games, allowing nearly double as many yards rushing in those games as they have the other 6 games they've played. So that's one factor. Not having Ezekiel Elliott is obviously an enormous factor, if for no other reason than you feel like you have to call more pass plays because Zeke isn't there, and because Tyron Smith's not there, you can't guard, you can't block on those pass plays. And it also, Tyron Smith not being out there hurt their running game. They ran Alfred Morris, I think, 20 times. However many times they ran Alfred Morris, 11 times, pardon me. Every single one of those was to the right side. They didn't run Alfred Morris left of the center once the entire football game. Running off left tackle has been like the biggest staple of this Cowboys offense when Zeke's out there and when Tyron Smith's out there.
And I'm sure if Zeke was there, they would have run to the left or to the right. The one thing that Cowboys fans should get used to, because if Tyron misses any more time, and without Zeke, he's going to get sacked more anyway, because they're going to have to throw the ball more. This is a list of quarterbacks that have been sacked more than 6 times. Alex Smith, he's been sacked 9 times. All right, so don't feel bad for that.
Oh, in one football game.
Yes,
okay.
Aaron Rodgers, he's been sacked more than 6 times, 7 times. Russell Wilson, 7 times. Phillip Rivers, 5. Roethlisberger, 5. Matthew Stafford, 5. Matty Ryan, 4. And even Tony Romo, 3 times. So this happens around the league.
Jason Garrett can't make adjustments during the game to help that left tackle? He sees what's happening?
Listen, I understand that once you bring in, Cris, you taught me this, once you bring in a tight end, whether it's Jason Witten or whomever, to come in and block on that left side, you are going to have fewer options throwing the football. I get that, and they were having trouble throwing the football already. But you have no chance throwing the football if your quarterback's lying down. Like, you've got to make an adjustment. The only adjustment they made was late in the game benching the player. You've got to see if all of a sudden the offense is going to open up more if you start giving help on that left side, even though it restricts your offense.
This is the problem. This is what they should have done. go to 2 tight ends, so you don't have a strong formation, go to a 1-back set, Cole Beasley got to sit on the bench, and you play with 2 wideouts outside. That's how you counter when you have one weakness on one side of the line and you don't want to dictate to the defense what you're trying to do. Put a tight end on both sides, and Witten can still go out. The other tight end can stay in and block.
Listen, I get that the Cowboys were without 3 of their 4 best players. I understand that the Falcons were playing for their season. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances, but the reality is the Dallas Cowboys just played the worst game they have played since Dak Prescott became the starting quarterback. Week 1, his rookie year, was the worst game they'd played up until right now, and it came at just about the worst possible time. They're now 5-4. Atlanta, which is trying to stay alive, now has that head-to-head tiebreaker, and next week you're going up against the team with the best record in the NFL.
Russell Wilson lost his left tackle. Aaron Rodgers lost his left tackle. They still managed to go out there and play. So I'm not in the excuse business.
Welcome back to First Things First. We're now joined by future Hall of Famer Ray Lewis, sitting next to also Hall of Famer Cris Carter. So those same Patriots cruised past the Broncos last night, 41-16. Brady threw for 266 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the defense has quietly played some pretty good football, allowing 17 or fewer points in 5 straight games now, all wins. Here's Tom Brady after the game.
We played really good complementary football. Special teams played great, defense played great. And then, we just tried to hold up our end of the bargain. It was a great team win. It's obviously been a tough place for us to play, but it feels good to come out of it with a real solid win.
Hey, Ray Lewis, are we officially done worrying about the New England Patriots?
I don't know who was worried about the New England Patriots. Nick, I think it was Nick. I remember that.
You remember now?
I do remember that now.
We don't want to jot your memory, but...
Listen, I need people to pay attention to what makes New England really great. What makes them great, really, is the mistakes everybody else makes against them.
It's unbelievable. It's so frustrating.
Unbelievable. The way people go into play a New England Belichick-ran team, and the mistakes they make, when you see it, you're like, wait a minute. Do you know on the other side is Tom Brady? The last thing you want to do is put him on a short field. The last thing you want to do is try to coach against Tom Brady while your offense is supposed to be doing something else. There were so many plays last night that I'm watching this Denver game, and I'm saying, why when you do that, why would you not run the ball? And it takes a person on the field to say, Coach, we ain't playing him like that. We're not going into New England and play them like that. When we went into New England, with one attitude. Coach, you won't win this game for us. I watched the Denver defense last night, and I said this last night. I said, if this defense does not play Tom Brady tough, I don't know another defense in the AFC that can play Tom Brady as tough as Denver has the ability to do.
They match up well.
They match up very well.
They got good linebackers. They got press corners.
But let me show you something they did, CC, and it blew my mind. To give him exactly what you were playing. Every time he took that running back and moved him out of the backfield, and one of those safeties, one of those linebackers went with him, he said, oh, thank you, guys, I got man coverage.
All right, so I know what you're saying, but explain to the audience how that gives it away. I don't think people understand.
Yeah, because he can identify it. So anytime, Nick, if I get up and walk over there and you follow me over there, guess what that means? You got me man to man. Yeah. If I go to the bathroom, got to take a piss, Nick, you coming with me. That means I got man to man. Right?
They do it as a decoy. The thing about Tom Brady is you want to try to give him the least amount of information pre-snap, and sometimes you have to line up in something and play something different. And as Ray in Baltimore, what they did was they had one game plan for the first half, and then immediately in the second half, they go to another game plan. But Ray wasn't subject just to the halftime adjustments. If they get off to a bad start in the first quarter, Ray's like, listen, we're going to make an adjustment. You know, because I know that guy. This is the problem, though. They don't know Tom Brady.
They don't.
All right? They was listening to Nick and telling him, hey, guys, Tom Brady, this is the year that TB12, he goes down. Right. So they don't know. He's been beating people like this for 15 years. They don't know he's the greatest quarterback ever. They don't know he's not making excuses. His #1 target going into the game, Chris Hogan, you know what, Nick? He didn't play. It's called injuries. What do? They claim Martellus Bennett. You know why? Because they're going to play 2 tight ends more so they can protect Brady and not back him up so Von Miller can ruin his day. All right? It's called managing your football team. They do it better than anyone else. It's the most predictable thing in the NFL every year is the Patriots will be more efficient than any other team.
And it's that simple.
So when you ask me about teams before the season, you're like, this is going to happen. I said, the most predictable thing is how New England is going to play situational football.
They're unbelievable at it.
They had 1 punt and 1 penalty yesterday.
I saw it, CB.
1 punt, 1 penalty.
CC.
Go ahead. You mentioned, because I totally agree with you, teams beating themselves against New England. The one team you can't beat the team more so than any other team you can't beat yourself against. What do we see from Denver last night? They force a 3-and-out, but then it doesn't matter because they muff a punt. Then they kick a field goal, but then it doesn't matter because they give up a kick return touchdown. Then they get a punt blocked. Like, they did everything they can to lose. Do you think teams, like, psyching themselves up too much to play the Pats? Like, because I do feel like teams make a disproportionate number of errors against New England, and some of them are forced errors. But the muffed punt is not a forced error, right? You know what I like? Some of those things are just the other team beating themselves.
We had other muffed punts in other games yesterday. We don't talk about it.
Right.
New England's a good football team.
Yeah, they're a good football team. But I'm talking about from a defensive standpoint going against Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about being able to let Tom Brady identify what coverage he's in before the snap even happens. I'm talking about a mentality. Yesterday, I saw Tom Brady turning around and just handing the ball to each running back. Boom. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're just punching Denver in the mouth.
Yep.
And I'm saying this
is that because he recognized what the defense was giving, or was the defense telling in every play?
It's what makes a true on-the-field leader valuable.
And he's not running to get the ball on first down for yardage like Dallas. Tom don't mind if it's second and long, but Tom knows if I don't run the ball, then I don't have play action.
Absolutely.
And if I don't run the ball, then Von Miller can wreck our day. So they understand the game better.
That's what was so interesting.
And they have good players that are utilized in what they do.
Right.
Burkhead, what did he do yesterday?
Right. Caught some passes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Blocked the punt.
Oh, and blocked the punt. Right. Yeah. He caught the touchdown, then blocked a punt.
Nobody, I remember years ago when I started to leave the game, what I realized, there are no more thinkers on defense. Because to beat Tom Brady, you got to think on beating Tom Brady. Running around and trying to run you fast, and it means nothing. You have to change the math. What do I mean by change the math? Every time Burke went out and one-on-one pass coverage, nobody never touched the running back who goes out and just simply runs up, takes a pivot, and just cuts inside and scores a touchdown. Put your hands on him, change the math. Mm-hmm. That's like practice for them. Sit there, oh, you're not going to touch him? I'm just going to throw the football. Nobody, if you watch defenses now, the biggest struggle that defenses are having is nobody understands the offensive side of the ball like a defensive coordinator does. The only people that understand it is the defensive coordinator. And that's why everybody just lining up doing their job.
We have just a few seconds left, Ray. Yeah. Quickly, is there another quarterback playing right now that you have to overthink or outthink besides Drew Brees?
Drew Brees went to Buffalo yesterday and made it look just common.
The Saints narrative used to go like this. So the team goes as Drew Brees goes, but lately the narrative centers around the rushing attack, which very well could be the best in the NFL. New Orleans scored 6 rushing touchdowns in their 47-10 win at Buffalo, including 3 from Mark Ingram and 1 from Alvin Kamara. The running back duo spoke after the game.
Listen, man, it's fun whenever we're scoring at will, you know, and we just had we wanted to come out here, and, you know, it was a good opportunity for our team to come on the road and get a big victory. And Drew got a touchdown, AK got a touchdown, Trey got a touchdown. Man, that's what we work for, man, so everybody eats.
You don't want to say you got 3 touchdowns.
All right, CC, what's the most impressive about the Saints' dominance this season? Because not a lot of people are talking about it, but they are quietly turning into one of the best teams in the league.
Well, if you look at the Saints team over the last 10 years, the teams that have been the best mirrored this team. Now, this team might not throw the ball as well as some of those other teams, but when the Saints have been good, they've been able to run the ball more effectively than people think. People just think, oh, it's just Drew Brees' arm. But not when the Saints are good. Like Sean Payton, and that's what he did in trying to go out and sign Adrian Peterson. He wanted to add a physical running attack. He realized after a couple weeks, which a lot of coaches won't do, he realized, man, I made a mistake. Let me get him out of here And they have gotten so much better since removing Adrian, because Mark Ingram is a top flight running back, but also a top flight person. And he's the type of person that can groom and mentor Kamar. I know this because he lives in South Florida. He works out with me all the time. He works a lot with my son. He's a great guy. So for Sean Payton to make these adjustments in the season, because I'm not going to wait till the offseason. I made a mistake. And to see Kamar's development, Sean Payton and what he did as a head coach, it's not in the numbers, but it's playing out in the film.
Don't look right now. The Saints might be the best team in the NFL. You can make a strong case that over the last 7 weeks, they are obviously the best team in the NFL. And over the totality of the season, they are on the very short list along with the Eagles, the Pats, the Steelers, who maybe have the shakiest case, and the Rams. So the Saints start their year with 2 losses, Minnesota and New England. Those aren't bad losses because those are 2 very good teams.
Yeah, they have the best record in the NFL.
Right. Since then, CC, their defense, 2nd in the league in points per game, 1st in the league in yards per game, 1st in the league in passing yards given up. All right, how's their rushing attack since those first 2 weeks? They are 2nd in the league in yards per game, 1st in the league in touchdowns. So all of a sudden, if you're telling me there's a team with a top 5 defense and a top 5 rushing attack, and oh yeah, their quarterback is Drew bleeping Brees, that's a team that can absolutely win a Super Bowl. And what you're seeing from Brees this year, one of the reasons the rushing attack is so effective and the offense so effective is a guy who's always been one of the all-time best as far as completion percentage. He's completing 72% of his passes. It's career high even for Drew Brees. So they can hand the ball off and guarantee 5 yards or close to 5 yards. But when they're throwing the ball 3 out of 4 times, you know it's being caught. Like, you can just perpetually keep the offense moving forward.
How old is Drew Brees?
Brees,
I want
36.
Oh, okay, because I want to know how far before the age thing starts.
There was a 40-year-old line of demarcation. And by the way, you guys kill me on being wrong about the Giants this year, which I know we're going to get to. Man, I thought the Saints were going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Like, I thought this was going to be another year, same old Saints, where they have no defense, running game struggles, they put up a bunch of passing yards, and they're not any good. The Saints are outstanding.
First of all,
Drew Brees.
What about Drew Brees?
It's 38.
38.
And he's going to be 39 in like 2 months.
That's usually how it works when you're 38. You're
After that, he's going to be 40. Yeah. So that's
good to
just
know.
yeah, he'll be 40
Sorry,
after
Jenna,
that. And then
as
he'll
you
be
were.
41. No, what I was going to say is, unlike Tom Brady, you can actually give Drew Brees a little bit of rest over the course of the next not even rest, not sitting out rest, but you don't have to tax his arm. That whole offense doesn't rely on Brees and doesn't go through his arm. You've got 2 running backs, both had over 100 yards yesterday in a game. How rare is that to have where you're not completely reliant on Drew Brees heading into January?
What it relies is a lot of times New Orleans, what their biggest problem was, they couldn't get home field advantage, all right, which that they are different on that turf. They've been an undersized, fast football team, so they play better inside. So then they end up going outside late in the season, and they don't have an all-weather football team. So when you don't have an all-weather football team, you're susceptible to going certain places. So right now, yeah, during the game, they can rest him, but it's important home field advantage. They'd much rather be playing Minnesota inside than have to go to a place like Philadelphia. So
no doubt.
They are better equipped to be able to handle it, and when they've been successful, they've been built just like this
And not
team.
even rest him. The whole offense doesn't have to go through his arm. He doesn't have to throw 300 yards.
Right, you're talking about doing what they did yesterday.
What Tom Brady, exactly.
What they did yesterday. They ran the ball 48 times for 298 yards. At one point in the game yesterday, CC, and shout out to our guys in our production meeting who gave this analogy, they looked like Alabama against a mid-major. They ran the ball 24 straight times.
My guy,
Brumley. Shout out to Brumley. I couldn't remember who said it. Like, they just kept handing the ball off. You run the ball 48 times and average 6 yards per carry.
You forgot the one shout out. Shout out to the weatherman.
Oh, yeah.
There was a weatherman came on the show last week and told you it was going to be unseasonably warm Sunday in Buffalo, and New Orleans would blast Buffalo.
I called Jim Cantori personally. He gave me the wrong weather report. I brought it on the show. You then pulled up your app. You're like, nope, gonna be warm. Bad job by me.
Could we also just mention real quick, Sean Payton was on the hot seat last year. That guy's job was all but like gone. What's going to happen? And after 2 games this year, we completely wrote the Saints off. How is he resurrected?
We thought that this was the last year of Brees and Payton in New Orleans.
Yeah, that was That was on the board.
That was absolutely on the board. And after 2 games, like you said, it was almost a foregone conclusion. All they've done since then is rip off 7 straight wins, and since those first 2 games, arguably been the best team in the NFL.
Sean Payton's one of the best coaches in the NFL, but they couldn't get that defense right. Now they got it.
Well, and one last point, and this is, we're seeing a lot of teams spend high draft picks on players, and they can't get them on the field. There were three receivers taken in the top 10 picks.
Yeah.
Those guys, I think, have combined for like 15 catches. The Saints are showing you, if you do hit on your draft picks, how much rookies can help you instantly. Alvin Kamara, a rookie. Marshawn Lattimore, a rookie. They might have the offensive and defensive rookies of the year on the same team, and those guys are helping them right now.
Moving on to the Steelers. They kept pace with the Patriots on top of the AFC, but only barely. Yes, they won, but it was a 20-17 comeback win over the Colts. All right, Nick, what did barely beating the Colts tell you about the Steelers yesterday?
Man, that CC was right early in the year when he said this is a team more so that's Pittsburgh and Seattle. 2 teams more so than anyone else, 2 different teams, home and road. That Pittsburgh, whether it's because of how emotional they are, whether it's because there might be some immaturity about them, especially when they're playing an inferior opponent on the road, that they do not come out and just in the game in the first half, the way I think most teams that are really good teams would do against a really bad Indianapolis team. But despite all that, they've now played 6 of their 8 road games. They're 5-1 in those games. Their one loss was an overtime loss to Chicago early in the year, so they've gotten away with it. And now down the stretch, they have 5 home games remaining. They are tied, as you mentioned, with New England, so they've been able to get away with it. Pittsburgh, though, is a team more so than any other team in the league that I will look to. Can they get the 1 seed? Because if the playoffs have to go through Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, to me, will be the heavy favorite. If Pittsburgh has to go on the road, things change significantly.
The key words were they've gotten away with it. And just like yesterday's win in Indianapolis, I'm going to show you a play late in the game, which was the key to their victory. Antonio Brown and Ben Roethlisberger hooking up on a play that they got away with that was illegal. Their center, Maurkice Pouncey, was down the field. They set up a screen pass in the 2-minute drill, and it's an amazing look. Let's take a look at it. All right? 1st and 10, 45 seconds to go in the game. They were setting up a screen pass. This was not what they were trying to do. All right? This was an illegal play. I'll show the reason why. They set up in a wide formation. They're trying to throw a double screen here. L. Bell right here. AB's trying to set a pick. Martavis is right here at the bottom. He's going to throw it to one of these guys. Quick. Now roll it. Watch Ben. Ben ad-libs in the pocket. He doesn't like L. Bell to the top. He doesn't like Martavius. So Antonio uncovers and is not supposed to be in the route. Ben finds him. They come up with the completion for 32 yards, but Maurkice Pouncey, the center, the line of scrimmage is right here. He's down the field because he thought the ball would have been thrown to here or there by now. So then they end up with AB. AB uncovers to get them in field goal range. They end up kicking a field goal as time runs out on the clock. But, Nick, you said earlier the Steelers have been able to get away with it. The screen pass to the right. Antonio was trying to set a pick for him. He wasn't available. Brian at the bottom didn't like him. Pouncey's down the field. This is illegal if they throw the ball down the field, which they did. So they've been able to get away with it like they've had a couple other wins that they've gotten away with. This was a great design because you can throw the ball to the right. They have man-to-man. You can throw it that way. You have a jailbreak screen, a college screen at the bottom by Bryant. But the offensive linemen are thinking the ball is going to be out of his hand.
And, CC, you don't blame the offensive lineman because he's allowed to do that if it's a screen pass. If the ball's thrown at or behind the line of scrimmage, you can be downfield. You can be blocking. That's what the play was designed to do. Big Ben improvised, and that's something the refs just flatly missed. And the announcers missed. Everyone missed.
Yes, offensive linemen have a clock in their head. Especially on screen passes, they know 1,001, 1,002, and then they go, all right? Ben held the ball longer, so he knows if that ball's not, he's going to go down the field because he still thinks the ball is going to be thrown behind the line of scrimmage, and he'll block down the field. So they were able to get away with it. This was the biggest play in the game, which led to their game-winning field goal as time expired.
And listen, that was the Steelers absolutely got away with it. Something we haven't shown is the Colts got unlucky on Jacoby Brissett. He throws a pass to Jack Doyle, hits Jack Doyle right in the hands. And what does Jack Doyle do? He bobbles it up. This is deep in their own territory.
Yes.
Ryan Shazier, who might be Defensive Player of the Year in the league this year, he ends up getting an interception. That was an enormous play that set up points for Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh didn't play very well. They found a way to win. Something Jenna had pointed out that she was concerned about with the Steelers that I thought was a good point, and we saw it yesterday. We had seen Antonio complain. He then gets targeted 19 times, right? We saw El Bell complain. He then gets 35 touches in a game. Martavis had complained. What did they do early in this football game for no reason? You didn't need to do this. They didn't have to do this. What did they do very early in the game?
Martavis has a guy off of him 10 yards. He's not in man-to-man. He's in zone. They just try to throw him a deep ball. It's premeditated.
Right.
They're going to take a shot with him, regardless of what the coverage is. Ben ends up throwing an interception early in the football game when it was totally unnecessary, trying to force the ball to a guy who has complained or said that he wasn't happy being there. So that's something that we have to watch as the season goes on. It's okay when you win. But if they had lost this game, you'd have a couple receivers because they didn't get the football, I'm sure, chirping to their quarterback.
To get into,
right?
To want something and complain and expect to get it, and then when the team gives it to you.
With all that said, the Steelers' defense looks like it has multiple Pro Bowlers for the first time in years. They might have the Defensive Player of the Year, as I mentioned. Juju Smith-Schuster has come on as the best rookie wide receiver in what we thought was going to be a very strong rookie wide receiver class. Hasn't proven out to be. El Bell's still playing like one of the best running backs in football, and they're 7-2. So, like, these are problems a lot of NFL teams would like to have.
One thing we need to watch is Joe Hayden broke his leg yesterday. All right, so.
Can you explain that to me, CC? They said out 2 to 3 weeks with a broken leg.
Yeah, it's a non-weight bearing.
Non-weight bearing?
There's 2 big bones in your leg. One of them's weight bearing, the other one's non-weight bearing. Okay. Well, I mean, at least for most elite athletes.
I mean, 2 to 3. I heard a broken leg.
You might have like 3 bones in your leg.
Come on. I didn't even deserve that drive by.
2 tibulas, 2 fibulas in your left and your right.
No, that is not accurate.
All right, moving on. It's a little after 9, and we have some breaking news. Ben McAdoo still has not been fired.
Man, y'all tricked me.
This despite his one-win Giants team getting crushed 31-21 by the previously winless 49ers. Here's McAdoo meeting the media after the game.
Do you need to address, your situation with the team because there's going to be speculation?
What situation? We have to go correct the tape. All right. We have to get ready for a next ball game. We have a chance to play probably one of the best teams in football next week. So, no situation.
Nick, start with you. Should the Giants fire Ben McAdoo today?
I believe they should. I believe they will. And the reason is I think they know he's not going to be the coach next season. So what is the benefit of having him coach out the remaining 7 games of their year? There is some benefit to being the first team to fire its coach. It's never great to fire your coach, but if you know you're going to fire your coach, there is a benefit in getting a head start on everyone else, being able to start your search first, being able to...
What's the list, though? Like,
what do you mean, what's the list?
Okay, if we fire our head coach, how do you start a list? Do you start with college coaches? Well, you can't interview anyone until after the regular season, so that's at least another 8 weeks, 9 weeks.
So the teams that fired, no one fired their coach mid-season last year. It was an odd year. But in 2016, the Bills fired their season before the end of the year. Rex Ryan. They got a head start on getting Sean McDermott. The Rams, we've talked about. They fired Jeff Fisher. They ended up bringing in Sean McVay, right? So, I'm sorry, those were last year. My apologies. The Rams were last year. Chip Kelly, they bring in Doug Peterson. Like, there are some benefits to getting a head start on everybody else, right?
They still would have gotten those coaches had they not waited till the last day of the regular season and fired them.
Is there anything to lose, CC? From firing your head coach at this point in time when you know you're going to do it?
Yeah, you can lose control of the whole organization and the locker room, and guys can get hurt. Like, I'm not confident that they have an offensive play caller that can keep them in a game plan. And it's not fair to Eli. Eli's been playing his whole career. It's not fair to the other offensive lineman, Bobby Hart. It's not fair to the left tackle, even if you don't think he can play. You need to put the best players out there with a game plan that will protect them because guys seriously get hurt playing football.
Why do you think the game plan, they wouldn't be able to put a game plan that can protect them out there?
Because I don't see a play caller on the roster. Like, I don't see, you said Spagnuolo, they could make him the interim head coach.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe you gain anything. The defense is playing horrible. So giving him complete control, he has been a head coach before, but if you think you're going to fire him, what do you gain by letting him go now?
I want to see, so here's, in addition to,
this is not college. This is not University of Tennessee, where now they can put out feelers. They're actually taught. This is not Florida. Florida has actually made offers to college coaches. Hey, if you're interested in this job, I know personally they've made an offer to a couple coaches. So it's not that way. The NFL, based on the rules, no one can be talked to until the end of the season. And we don't know who the hot coordinator candidates are going to be. We don't know that. It doesn't play out that way in the NFL.
The point that I'm making with McAdoo is this. If you want to chalk up the first half of the season to some bad luck, right? The first half of the year leading into the bye, we had Beckham break his leg. We had a 63-yard field goal beat us against Philadelphia. We lost at the gun the following week by a field goal. All right, we'll go to the bye, regroup, see if we can salvage something. Since the bye, they play the Rams and get embarrassed. They get a 50 spot put on them. They then play the winless San Francisco 49ers, and they're down 31-13 with 90 seconds left in that game. You're not going to cut a dozen players on your team. At some point that you fire a coach, if you know you're going to fire a coach at the end of the year, to see if you get any jolt from your roster moving forward. Like, to me, there's nothing to lose. They know he's not the guy.
So you're saying if the Mara family comes down today and they fire your boy, the defense is going to play harder now?
I don't know.
I mean, they walked out on we got one guy walk off the field in Giant Stadium, all right? We had a couple guys suspended. So now all of a sudden, their contract is not with the head coach. Their contract is with the New York Football Giants. At the bottom of the check, that's what it says. New York Football Giants. It does not say one coach. And I don't believe guys play harder for one guy. Guys play harder, you know what, for their check and for their family and for their kids and for their mortgage and for their car payments. That's what they play harder for.
All right, so by the time we're sitting here tomorrow morning, you say Ben McAdoo's out, you say he's still in.
Yeah, but it don't matter to me if they fire him. I'm just telling you, don't help the team going forward the last 8 weeks. You gain zero advantage by letting him go now. You're paying him to the end of the season. Put him in the broom closet. Let him sit there for 8 weeks.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.